challenging times of growth, and of late during the COVID crisis and social upheaval. Today, we'd like to begin our program by actually honoring our special guests, and that is the members of the class of 1970, as they mark 50 years since graduating with degrees from the then Polytechnic Institute of Brooklyn, Brooklyn Poly, and the University Heights campuses. As you can see, we're doing things a little differently right now due to COVID, but we look forward to gathering again for an in-person celebration when it is safe to do so. On behalf of the School of Engineering, I applaud all of you, class of 1970, for the career accomplishments you have made throughout the past 50 years. You are an inspiration, especially to our current students, and you remain an integral part of our past, our present, and our future. That said, it is a pleasure to be joined by Charlie. I have to say Charlie. He's Charlie to all of us. Charlie, class of 1970, who will receive the certificate of induction into our school's Golden Jubilee Society, not only on his behalf, but he is accepting this symbolically on behalf of his fellow classmates. Next slide, please. Next slide, and music. However, sorry, my bad. However, before Charlie does say a few words, please enjoy a brief look back from the class of 1970 Poly Yearbook that we've put together in this short slideshow presentation. Now, please welcome Charlie Hinkley to say a few words, and we'll read the certificate out loud. Charlie?
Thank you, Valerie. Hello, everyone. I'm Charlie Hinkley, for those of you who don't know me, or for those of you who don't recognize me because of the gray hair and the smaller amount of hair. It has been 50 years. Certainly doesn't seem like it's been that long ago. 50 years ago, I received my bachelor's degree from Brooklyn Poly in 1970. And it's indeed an honor and a privilege for me to be able to accept this certificate of induction into the NYU Tandon School of Engineering Golden Jubilee Society. And I want to accept this on behalf of all of my classmates. This society honors alumni who graduated 50 years ago. It's indeed an incredible milestone, and it doesn't seem possible. It really doesn't, that it's been 50 years now. I have so many fond memories of the time that we all spent together way back when. Normally, we would have been celebrating this occasion on campus in person at a very nice ceremony. Unfortunately, COVID preempted that this year. So my only regret is that we can't be together to reunite in person. We had to go virtual. I would have loved for you to see the amazing transformation of our alma mater in person in a revitalized downtown Brooklyn. We could have toured the school's wonderful new facilities. It's no longer an old razor blade factory that turns out sharp engineers. There's no more Myrtle Avenue L coming to a screeching halt outside of the windows of the school. It would have been wonderful to meet some of our new world-class professors. It would have been great for you to engage with our incredible students. The median SAT score for the incoming freshman class is 1460. Let that sink in for a minute. It's amazing, the caliber of students that we are now attracting. It would have been great for us to be able to learn more about the cutting edge research that's being done at our alma mater and the spirit of entrepreneurship that permeates the institution. Despite unquestionable challenges this year, our researchers are continuing to find engineering solutions to the world's most pressing problems. And of course, this year, that includes trying to stop the spread of a global pandemic. We're also tackling the spread of misinformation via social media. Also, we're looking at the utilization of artificial intelligence systems for constructive purposes, and many other issues that we couldn't even envision when we were students over 50 years ago. A lot of this work is being done in concert with some of our sister schools at NYU, specifically the medical school, which is a top 10 medical school now, the dental school, the law school, which is also a top 10 law school, and the business school, which also ranks in the top 10. And all of these wonderful developments have been completed without compromising key components of the school's very important mission when we were students, including specifically educating smart first and second generation United States students, many of whom are the first in their families to benefit from a quality engineering and applied science education. That's why we rank so high when it comes to looking at upward mobility of graduating students. So despite these tumultuous times, we have every reason to continue to be very proud of our alma mater. Thank you. I look forward to re-engaging with you for an in-person celebration of this important milestone once this pandemic is in our rearview mirror and there's a return to normalcy. Take care and please stay healthy.
Thanks, Charlie. And again, congratulations to you and your fellow classmates. I know that our certificate is up on the screen, and I hope everyone has had an opportunity to read the words that are on it because they really are beautiful. If you don't mind, I will take a moment to do that. New York University Tandon School of Engineering hereby certifies that class of 1970 is a member of the Golden Jubilee Society. Those alumni of NYU Tandon, formerly Polytechnic, and NYU School of Engineering and Science, who through 5 decades have in their personal lives and by their professional accomplishments given evidence to the ideals of their alma mater and have added dignity and luster to its name. It is dated today's date, Saturday, October 24th, 2020, and it holds the signature of our Dean, Jelena Kovačević, Dean, NYU Tandon School of Engineering. Now,
thank you, Valerie, and thank you, Jelena.
Now, let's welcome our moderator for today's conversation with Dean Jelena, Tony Concolino, president of our Polytechnic Alumni Association. Anthony graduated from Poly in 1982, where he received his Bachelor of Science degree in Electrical and Electronic Engineering. He currently serves as Cloud Risk Executive for Bank of America. Welcome, Tony.
Thank you, Valerie. Thank you very much. And one other thing, I also earned the nickname Tony when I made it to Poly in 1978. So I noticed you went back and forth between Anthony and Tony, so that will explain why I'm now known as Tony. Poly did that. Thank you again. And Charlie, let me just say to you, thank you so much for the bright, shining vision that you have painted and you have lived for this school. You are truly an icon among the alumni of the school. And as the representative of the whole class of 1970, I want to thank you and your members.
Thank you very much, Tony.
Yes. Now let's get on with the event. I don't think I need to introduce Jelena. However, everyone, we always need to remember that Jelena is the first woman president of the school in its long history. And I want to make sure that everyone is informed of what's going on around the school, and Jelena is going to do that for us today. We have a couple of questions that we're going to pose for Jelena, and why don't we get into it to start. So, Dean Jelena, this school was on a very strong upward trajectory when COVID hit this year, and it would be nice to spend some time and have you fill us in on what are the big accomplishments that the school achieved prior to March of this year.
Sure, thank you, Tony. Let me just take a moment to welcome you all. I've sent my love via chat in the ether. Thank you, Charlie. Thank you, Valerie. It's a real pleasure to be here. This has been a crazy year, and we are well into a semester like no other in history. This pandemic has thrown the entire world of higher education and our personal lives in a turmoil. So first, I'm hoping that all of you and your loved ones are healthy and well. This has really touched us all. I just wanted to say on a personal note, I can tell you that my 26-year-old daughter in her first year as a nurse in Denver became a COVID nurse for a few months, as her floor is a pulmonary floor. So every time I see one of our students, I think of them and of her as my kids. So this pandemic has really forced us to kind of adopt an Apollo 13 mindset and engineer solutions for how to deliver classes, support our students, how to respond to the pandemic with what we do best, our research. And we feel that when the unpredictable happens, our thinking has to be unconventional. And our school is where unconventional technologies to learn, teach, research, and invent. So this year, we moved another 2 spots in rankings, moving from number 80 in 2009 to number 38 in 2020. This is unprecedented rise in higher education. I can tell you, I don't want to gloat, but Columbia has fallen 3 spots and Princeton has fallen 4 spots. So going up 2 is a great feat for us. Our Tom Arzetta, a wireless wizard, was elected to the National Academy of Engineering, the highest distinction for an engineer. Our online and fintech programs are among the top 10. We enrolled 46% women in our class of 2023, and we had an almost 25% increase from last year, just from last year, in graduate applications. On research, and especially our young researchers were accumulating accolades. For example, Miguel Modestino from our Department of Chemical and Bioengineering was named one of the innovators under 35 for 2020 by the MIT Technology Review. So we can say that our star has been traveling at warp speed in the beginning of this year. So this is just a kind of an overview of highlights, Tony.
Oh, thank you, Jelena. Thank you. That was really amazing to see how the school has been able to jump up in the rankings like that, especially given the circumstances. So that's all good news, great news. Now, of course, March came and hit us very hard all around the world. You know, it doesn't need to be repeated, but we will anyway. Anyone who's been affected by it or has had a loss in their family due to COVID, our hearts go out to you, of course. And we're hoping that you're managing through this time at the moment well. Everyone should make sure that they're getting the help that they need in order to get through these trying times. When this hit the school and the world, the school, of course, had to respond. And Jelena, I'm wondering if you can share with us, how did the administration think about this response, and what the thought process went into between yourselves and the administration and, of course, faculty to respond so that to help the students and to further the needs of the school?
Sure. I mean, you know, as you all know, and as most schools did in March of this year, NYU moved basically to remote teaching at a moment's notice. All classes were moved to remote, faculty and staff started working remotely, students left housing in New York. Our experimental research came to a halt because there was no access to the buildings. We had to figure out how to deliver high quality classes remotely for all classes, while, you know, we are an online powerhouse. Doing this for hundreds, actually above 1,000 classes, labs, and recitation sections was a logistical nightmare. We had to figure out how to support our students, especially our graduating students, whose lives have been thrown into turmoil. This included health, mental health, graduation, community engagement, career services, anything you can think of. We had to figure out how to support our faculty, especially our junior colleagues, while addressing, again, health issues, added stress, technology support, how to continue their research. And we really had to figure out not only how to keep the school running, but to do so with an eye towards financial solvency and long-term strategic health. We were truly innovating in the Apollo 13 mindset. And I feel sort of as the pandemic hit, we hit back. It really did involve an extraordinary effort on the part of the community. We immediately, basically the moment we heard that we're going remote, we created a task force in the school consisting of faculty, staff, and students. We divided in teams to address issues both short-term and long-term. Everything we were doing, we had an eye of what we had to do immediately and what we had to do to preserve the school long-term and think of our strategy that we had prior to the pandemic. We identified risks and mitigation strategies. We were focusing greatly on students, and especially, I have to say, enrollment of graduate students, both international and domestic. We created a Jumpstart Tandon project for the summer, consisting of summer scholars. This was a program offering a free summer class that could be used for credit should the student enroll in the fall. So we sort of wanted to hook them to come to Tandon because we had no clue how many students, if any, would return to school in the fall. We had the Tandon Made Challenge, offering incoming Tandon students an opportunity to solve pressing healthcare challenges and potentially bring their solutions to market. We offer the free summer career academy to both our undergraduate and graduate students. And so basically, the members of our community sprang into action to redeploy resources, launch new platforms, refocus research, leverage technologies, and lend their expertise in innovative ways to address the pandemic, leading to both the curricular innovations and rapid responsive innovations, for example, to ventilator and PPE shortages and more. So on our website, there is something that I think it's called Tandon response to COVID. If you go there, you'll see a plethora of examples that were, I have to tell you, in that really hard time when, none of us knew really what's going to happen, how long this is going to last, what this really means, how and what people did, and most of it remotely. So there was this amazing project where people reused the hairdresser sort of hood to create a ventilator, to sort of like a personal ventilator space with negative pressure to address the ventilator shortage. So these are just some of the examples, but I have to tell you, it felt like we were soldiers in a war and everybody banded together with one mind to win the war. So it was, that part was heartening, as hard and as stressful as it was.
I can imagine, and the effort truly has been noted. That, what an amazing effort went into it, and all the work that you and the administration did. It reminds me a little bit of history, as I mentioned, as the first woman president of the school. For those in the audience, when the Brooklyn Bridge was being built by the Robler family. The father had become sick, and the son had to take over, and then he became sick. And so the wife of the son, Emily Robler, she became in charge. And it was a very difficult time for those workers because they didn't know how to treat her. They didn't know how to really react. There was a lot she needed to learn too. But with her strong leadership, they were able to finish the building of the Brooklyn Bridge. And as I might have mentioned before, it couldn't have been a better time for you to come along, Jelena, and be at the helm of this great school we have, and lead us through this, because this is very difficult times. And I know you have you're not new to crisis and working through crisis and dealing in your own personal life through great upheaval. And so we thank you for the great leadership that you've provided to the students in the school during this time. Now it's school time again. The students are back, I don't know, 7-8 weeks already.
No, more.
Amazingly.
Yeah.
How did you go about planning this return, and how do we sustain this at this point in time?
Well, first of all, sometime around almost immediately, maybe in April, we started thinking, how are we going to come back in the fall, right? And what do we need to do? Because again, nobody knew how long this was going to last. Nobody understood really yet at the time what this virus was like and what kind of havoc it will wreak. So at the time, us together with all the NYU schools started thinking through a myriad of issues, public health, distancing, PPEs, cleaning, testing and tracing, then academics, how do we offer flexibility? We didn't really know who was going to come on campus and when they were going to be able to come on campus. Maximizing in-person classes, supporting tech in the classrooms. How do we organize study spaces? I mean, all our spaces are designed to be full, right? And all of a sudden now we have to go down. Our classrooms went down to a third or quarter of their usual capacity. What do you do with research, labs, resources, global campuses that NYU has, student support, housing, dining, facilities, security? I mean, it is just, incredible the amount of things, the number of things we had to refigure out, because anything we took for granted, like just walking into the classroom and teaching, had to be rethought. And so again, I keep on saying we have pulled off a miracle. I would say, I kept on saying a minor, it's not a minor miracle, it's a major miracle. With pride, I can say that we all together with you and everybody's support, have risen to the occasion. We're back on campus. Not many schools are. With low density and students are attending classes in person. Our makerspace is open at 50% capacity, but open. Our research is ongoing. NYU is testing all members of the community once every 2 weeks, everybody, and residential students once a week. Our positivity rate, it's publicly available. It's on the NYU website. You can see our dashboard, hovers around 0.5%. That's amazing, right? It's still 0.5%. In order to provide the greatest flexibility possible to our students, we allowed them to start the semester remotely and then come in person, to come in person and be remote if they need to be remote completely, anything. We have outfitted our classes with technology to support both in-person and remote attendance. We have rooms across campus, including the Brooklyn campus gym and the adjacent Marriott Convention Center to support up to 800 students in one time who may want to participate in remote courses while on campus, sort of in between classes. But at the same time, it's not only classrooms, it's research. I mean, it is astonishing what has happened on campus and what faculty and students have continued to do in response to the pandemic and other types of research. So since March, 10 of our faculty have received COVID-related NSF rapid response grants in support of their COVID-related work on, for example, intelligent wearable telehealth devices, determining if our urban infrastructure systems could support massive stay-at-home orders, tracking the virus through touch and mobility data, all kinds of things, tracking the virus using the wastewater. So what I think people have kind of thrown themselves into the work as much as possible to be able to deal also with this. But while it hasn't been easy, also looking back, it is really astonishing how resilient we as humans are and what this little engine that is our school is able to do. I mean, we punch well above our weight. You would think we have hundreds of people at hand to do all this stuff, but that's not true. So very proud of this.
That's great. And the students are, I'm sure, very, very happy also that they're able to be attending classes and still get some of the experience that everybody wants to get when they're in school.
Absolutely.
Yes. And of course, we have now to move on. And back in 1970, when the class in 70 had graduated, there were a lot of things going on back then too. But on the lighter side, Jelena, I'm wondering, do you have a favorite Beatle?
Do I have a favorite Beatle?
Yeah.
I'm not sure. I love them all. This was, it's funny that you mentioned this now. I just thought that I started learning English when I was like 8 or 9 because I wanted to understand Beatles songs. So I'm guessing you're asking me about those Beatles, right?
Yes, yes, I am. Yes, I am.
Maybe it's a car, I don't know, but just making sure. I think probably John Lennon was my favorite. And I live on the Upper West Side, just sort of steps away from the memorial.
The tragic killing of him. Yes.
Exactly. And the unfortunate thing, you now bring so many memories. I was born on December 8th, and he was killed on my 18th birthday, which was very sad.
I'll tell you, I got to see John Lennon perform.
Oh wow!
In his probably his last performance at Madison Square Garden, when he was brought out on stage by Elton John during Elton John's first concert in Madison Square Garden. in 1974.
That is incredible.
And it was such a treat. I had no idea I was going to see him. It was really a
for
treat.
everybody, this is not scripted. Tony is just kind of riffing here, right, Tony?
Yes, this is completely off script, totally off script. But I bring it up because we know in 1970 the Beatles disbanded, and it was tragic for the world. I mean, of course, not to the. I'm not trying to make light of what we're going through. I said I wanted to lighten it up a little bit and have a conversation. But the Beatles were disbanded, and the world went on, and they, for the most part, all of them became very successful. Of course, we know Paul McCartney really has carried the baton, but you know that they disbanded in 1970.
There are
But
some great things from the 70s that we can
yes,
remember from the movies, the music, you know, I mean, an amazing time.
of course. But with all these challenges we go through, we always come through. Of course, Tandon and its predecessor schools have always been there through thick and thin to take these crises and turn them around into opportunities and to build upon what we didn't know before. They figure things out really quickly. You know, kind of the accelerated startup companies, you know, on speed or steroids. Of course, there's going to be great challenges still ahead of us right now, but there's also lots of opportunities. This is when we work
That's
our
very
best.
true.
And I'm wondering what can you share with us about the kinds of opportunities you anticipate that the school is going to have as a result of?
I mean, you're right. Any upheaval around us usually presents challenges and opportunities. For example, you know, is this a watershed moment for higher education? And really, what's on the other side? What is going to persist after this pandemic? You know, what is the role of higher education in perpetuating systemic inequality? For Tandon, some of the challenges are really continued enrollment of international students, given the pandemic and recent immigration policy and policies, uncertain relationship with China, you know, financial future. I mean, we basically operate off student tuition, and everything we do is based on that. And then, of course, wider, we sit in Brooklyn and New York City, and what is the future and fate of both the borough and the city as cultural and technological, you know, metropolis post-pandemic. But they, of course, these challenges present unique opportunities, you know, creating long-term benefits from changes that have been implemented in reaction to the pandemic. For example, those jumpstart experience examples I gave you, getting louder about our demand for a more diverse tech industry, looking what our great stories are out there in solving a number of problems, you know, from dependence on, you know, foreign countries in the wireless arena to sustainability to, let's say, responsible AI, to all the things that we can do with, you know, in the health arena, collaborating, of course, with the great NYU hospital system and a school, NYU Langone. But at the same time, thinking about workforce development, you know, both before kids come to our school or any other school through our K through 12 efforts, through when they are at school, what kinds of engineers are we educating? These are supposed to be new, unconventional engineers, sort of, they're not from my era, not from your era, they should be bringing in new things. So an example is we have these vertically integrated projects that are several semester long projects where kids can come in and out and take them for credit that solve pressing challenges, and some of them go on to become companies, which is amazing. And then how do we embed professional development and career support throughout our curriculum so that when these kids come out, these are the consummate professionals and team players and leaders that everybody will want to hire. And finally, we think of what we want to provide as sort of a hub for lifelong learning, and you coming back and maybe taking courses with us and so on, so that the education is not just this transactional event. You come, spend a fixed number of years and leave, and that's it. But the same way you are engaged with us as our alums, there is kind of give and take, and we serve as a hub not only for our alums, but also perhaps for the companies that want to upskill or reskill their workforce, responding to the demands of today, especially when it comes to things like AI and cybersecurity and so on. So we are in a great position. Of course, I say this with a little bit of I have to be cautious because the pandemic is not over, right? We have come back in the fall. We are open, at great financial sort of sacrifice, if you want, but we are open. We are still there, and this school has the history of surviving these tough times. So I am saying this. Our little engine that could, is going to become a mighty engine that did. And I think we're on a great path to doing just that.
Okay, well, that concludes the formal questions we had before. And I was going to ask you, I think you touched upon it, but if there's any final words you'd like to say to the alumni while we have this event, before we end today's activities.
I can see that there was some question about rescos. Valerie, did you see this? Where was that? Somebody told me that there is a question about.
Yes, I can read you the question, Jelena.
Yeah.
Can we discuss about starting the same floor level dorm room bubble for students? They are following mask and distance rules. They have been tested repeatedly negative. Is it time to expand the social bubble? Isolation is getting to the students.
Absolutely. It's interesting. It's a fantastic question. And this is exactly what we are at NYU discussing now, because this applies to all NYU students. Of course, initially, when the students were coming from all over the country and all over the world, it was essential to address first the public health issues. So the gateway testing and the ongoing testing as we are doing now. But of course, this is hard. Isolation is hard. And so now there are thoughts of creating more, as you said, of social bubbles, maybe not entire floors. MIT has just started something of groups of students forming their own little pod. I think Stanford is planning for like 8 students at a time. So this is exactly what we are looking into. And to be honest, some of these things we had to do because it was the law. This is what the governor was requiring of us. But I think as we are all learning, the entire state and the institutions of higher education in the state, there is an understanding that perhaps one could do other things. One can potentially do more rapid testing and, shorten the quarantine. We have asked for this before, but we were not allowed to do things like this. So mental health and the social isolation of our students is now probably number 1 or number 2 issue that we are thinking about.
Thank you, Jelena. We have another question. And this question is, what are some top research/industry collaborations we should be looking to hear about in the near to medium term future?
I mean, we have a ton of industry collaborations on different fronts, from those where we partner with them so that they can hire our students. For those where we have individual collaborations between faculty to support their research, we have collaborations, for example, on the cybersecurity front, supporting some of our online programs. They're just, this is something that we keep on expanding and looking into potential opportunities where we could do something on a bigger scale, as I mentioned, on, let's say, reskilling or upskilling employees via online programs in the areas where we have strength.
Thank you. In follow-up, what are the top 3 strategic investments for Tandon going forward?
That's interesting. I mean, investments in terms of what we have as our operating funds, of course, are into research, and that mostly means into trying to attract world-class faculty and giving support for PhD students and postdocs and labs. And then, of course, investments into our students. We call this students first, where we invest a lot of effort in having these career services that we are embedding into the curriculum, as well as entrepreneurial sort of mindset through a number of programs. One I mentioned already, the vertically integrated projects, but we also have summer research, the beginnings of co-op opportunities. We have, in the last 2 years, started allowing internship for credit in almost all our majors. Then internship for credit in our own incubators, Future Labs, that's it just across the street at 370J, and many others.
Do we have time for one more question before we wrap up? And this would be...
There is a great question on what kind of support Tandon is providing to female students.
Terrific. Why don't you...
It's perfect. I mean, we have, if you go on our website, we have a group called Women at Tandon. And the reason why the school has been so successful in attracting so many female students is because there is a 4-step program. One is how to attract them. So there is a number of events that Tandon hosts to sort of talk to our women students and what kind of experience they would have on campus. Then there are a number of events that we host for our accepted students. Then there is programs once they're on campus. For example, one whole floor in our Otmer Hall is women's floor. And when I went in on a moving day a couple of years ago, they were all there waiting for me with great excitement. We have a women mentorship program where we pair our junior students with their more senior colleagues for mentoring. And then, of course, mentoring through our Alumni Association, advisory council. And that's something that Valerie started, and Valerie can actually tell you about this. I think that would be a very exciting way for our female alums to get involved with the school.
Yes, I would love to. It's the Tandon Alumni Advisory Council, and it is a group of dedicated alumna who give back to us in many ways. They provide shadow experiences for students. They come in and talk with students as part of a speaker panel. They also give financial support, because we realize as a group that a lot of students have incidentals that may not be covered by scholarship alone. They may wish to take advantage of a conference, or they may need finances to help with a Metro card. So we're not trying to solve the world's problems, but just take a small piece of what we can do and help our female students as they navigate their career. So We have, I would say, approximately 30 members, and we're always eager to have more members. So if you'd like to consider it, please give me an opportunity to talk to you about it privately. I'd love to do it. We have lots of opportunities for both of our alumni, from men and women. We need our male allies, of course, but we also have a new push, which is the NYU Violet Network, which is a mentoring program. It's a platform that right now, given what we are facing, it's perfect. It's online. You can meet with the students, you can meet with fellow alums. So you can provide support not only to a student who is walking the walk that you once did, but also to each other at different points in your professional life. We have about 500 alumni from the School of Engineering. We really want to challenge everyone to help us double that figure, because we have more than 1,000 students that have currently signed up for the program. So if you're interested, again, it's the NYU Violet Network, and we'd be delighted to have you join. Thank you for allowing me to say that, Jelena. Perfect.
Absolutely.
I think we've covered a good portion of some things in the chat box, and looking at the time, I think, Tony, if you'd like to make some closing remarks, this might be the time to do that.
All right. Well, thank you. Thank you. And I have to say, moving up 40 points in the rankings and everything that we just listened to is testimony to the fact that that bridge that we needed to build since the merger, I think it's been built. And I think now we're going to be able to reach our goals. Given all that we've heard, there's so much to be proud of. And I'm really happy to be a part of it. And Jelena, again, thank you for your leadership.
My pleasure. My pleasure. It's an honor to be at the helm of this school that has such a storied history. I'm very proud of it.
And on the final screen, slide on the screen, you'll see that we have an event happening later on at 3 o'clock, 50 years later. The class of 1970 meets the class of 2020, which promises good things, great conversation. But I also want to let you know that we have recorded this session with the Dean and Anthony, and it will be available on the website. So please, if you thought this was great and you want to hear it again, please listen to it, and please let others know that the session today, as with all of the sessions happening during NYU Alumni Day, for the most part, are being recorded and will be available until November 1st. So I want to thank everyone for coming today, especially our special guest, class of 1970. And Jelena, as always, thank you so much for spending some time with us. We always appreciate when you can. And Tony, thank you for being the host and the moderator and engaging in conversation with Jelena. We know that you guys get to talk all the time, and it was great to kind of sit back and just hear the two of you discuss Tandon today and all the wonderful things happening. So thank you for giving us that insight into all the happenings that are going on at our school. We appreciate it.
And on behalf of the class of 1970, thank you, Jelena, and thank you, Tony. Thank you both for your leadership. We are very proud of your recent accomplishments.
To all of us, this is a team effort, right?
Yep.
Thanks, everybody. Stay safe.